What drives human behavior is one of the most widely discussed psychological topics. The topic can even leak into the most unassuming hobbies such as video games, where themes of human perseverance are fairly common within adventure games. Even if it's not outwardly expressed, oftentimes you're rewarded for simply not giving up. Though there's a largely underlooked aspect to this human behavior that can be identified as downright self-destructive. And I don't even necessarily mean when the end goal is something bad. After all, even the most righteous desires can have the most corrupt paths. And today, I present to you an insight into what it would look like when you choose to venture down one of these toxic paths in Golden Light. Golden Light is a dark comedy horror game that was released on July 20th of 2020 and developed by a man by the name of Mr. Pink, along with a small group of artists and developers. It's often advertised as evil prop hunt as monsters disguised as books, computers, and other less than subtle household appliances try to murder you while you search for keys to access an elevator to further descend into the hellish flesh dimension to find and reassemble your dismembered wife. And yes, the game is as much of an acid trip as that sounds. Golden Light plays similar to a roguelike with a vague sense of progression as you work towards your goal of perfectly recapturing the form of your girlfriend, who is only ever referred to as she. Along with your goal in mind, there's a hidden karma mechanic which essentially makes the game more difficult as you do more bad things within the meat abyss. Shoot him? Ooh, that's not good. They're not gonna like that. Throw that at whatever that is. Yeah, that's gonna affect your credit down here, little guy. In this video, I'm gonna be your gut chaperone, for I've taken a small amount of time from my life to learn the ins and outs of this place. We will walk together through the game's levels, then at the end, I'll do my best to try to apply meaning to all this madness. So, without any more running my own meat hole, that sounded way more gross than I intended it to. My name's Nas, and let's descend into Golden Light starts out in a seemingly endless field of grass and flowers with the sun illuminating the area through a light fog. In front of you is she, your girlfriend, sitting on a picnic table next to the tetanus bike. Walking up to her while ignoring her Hulk stompers, you're able to interact with her, which will prompt some dialogue. She says the following phrases: "The sun never sets, silly. The sun shines on the earth all the time, even when it's hidden behind the horizon. So, the day and night are bound together forever. They cannot be without each other. I wonder how that must be, to be together forever, yet always apart. We haven't gone out together for so long, my love." After speaking to her, it's time to get romantical, so you go pick up a nearby rose to give to she, but when you step close to give it to her, yeah. And now you must do what any other sane person who just witnessed their significant other getting dragged into a hole by a big ass hand must do. Dive right into that prolapsed asshole yourself and get them back, of course. Thrown right into the action with nothing but the skin on your back, you're now left to fend for yourself within the gut. Briefly, I think this is as good a time as any to go over how exactly things work down here. Around the levels, you can find many different weapons to belong to one of 4 damage categories: bludgeon, pierce, saw, or ranged. Weapons you find can have one of the status effects within the game and will apply them upon attacking yourself or an enemy. These weapons that contain an effect are now considered alive and will do more damage than dead weapons. They also have a cute name too, which makes it pretty sad when you have to eat them for health. Yeah, you can also eat pretty much everything you can pick up in this game, but just be careful eating living weapons because it will inflict whatever status effect they have on them. And I know what you're thinking. I don't really want to eat that. Doesn't look very appetizing. And to you I say, yeah. Along with weapons, you can find a multitude of grotesque consumable items such as eye with fingers and corrupt fetus, and other stuff that's probably just easier to not list by name so I don't have to keep censoring the screen every 10 seconds. Consumable items can have any one status effect within the game, giving you an option to eat it and apply it to yourself, or throw it and apply it to an enemy. Back to the game, you'll end up in a small room and in front of you is a statue of she submerged within a wall of flesh. She tells you about how uncomfortable it is to be snatched up and locked deep within a lukewarm meat cell, and states that she's still waiting for you to come get her. After walking through the pulsating wall of chunky flesh, you now are officially within the gut and can begin your grand adventure. The gut will begin to talk to you now, mostly just to taunt you or instigate you, or manipulate you into doing bad things. Throughout my playthrough, I had a bad habit of doing this thing called whatever the damn voices tell me to do, so oftentimes I'd listen. I'd also mainly test all the items by eating them first, because I thought, well, what if it's a good one? Then
I'm gonna eat this.
Oh no! There's not a lot else other than that happening on level 0. It's considered a tutorial level, so I guess it also wants to show you that you can throw items into infected areas, but I wasted my last item by throwing it at this guy named Glutton because he made me mildly uncomfortable. Glutton acts as a vending machine and will ask you for one of two things: to bring him a nearby item or to give him 7 gold. If you choose to make the exchange, he'll give you a random item, except items from him will always tell you what effect they have on them. Here you also learn that notes around the level can do different things for you, such as inflict a status effect on you, break your weapons, or even take one of your eyes and make half your screen dark. Yeah, I personally don't recommend reading the ones that have moving text on them. More often than not, for me, it was always bad. After wandering around for a bit, I finally decided to run through the fire and the flames, which leads me to my first memento, which are basically power-ups you get throughout your run that will go away upon death. I'm not going to explain all of them just because there's so many, but this first one in particular I get is called the Mole, and I've had it throughout my entire run. Basically, all it does is teleport you to a random location anywhere on the level you're on. Occasionally, this could be really clutch in tight spots where you're getting overwhelmed by monsters. Other times, he likes to be devious as hell when you're exactly where you need to be, and he'll just nab your ass and throw you in the boss area for funsies. One time I was just wandering around and he moved me a few feet back from where I was walking, just cause, I don't know, he can. Anyways, after picking up the key to the floor and eventually realizing I could progress, I make my way to the elevator and leave floor 0. I didn't really know where I was supposed to go, so I was just digging into the wall for like 5 straight minutes. In between levels, you go into a handful of flashback sequences. The first one I get is a wrecked room with books everywhere and a lamp knocked over on the floor. The phone ringing on the desk and a letter within the typewriter are the only things that you can interact with in this flashback. The letter reads, "But I'm already, I try to remember, but I'm already, I piss out of 2 schlongs." Wow. That was definitely a note that was written once. There's a handful of these, but I'll save them for the end of the video because they don't offer anything other than lore tidbits and ultimately exist as interactive loading screens. The first zone in Golden Light is referred to as the Gut Corridors. This area has the look of an old hotel, featuring ugly green wallpaper that meets wood trim about 2/3 the way down with wood flooring. Oddly enough though, the objects found within this area would imply this to be some type of office space. You can find common office furniture and appliances such as desks, computers, filing cabinets, vending machines, chairs, potted plants, and stacks of books. This is also when you encounter the first and most common type of enemy found within the gut, mimics. That's right, this Ottoman chilling by the exact spot I needed to be while I was almost dead was actually one of the great evils that you will encounter on your way to retrieve your lady. I bash it over the head with a lead pipe and laser beam his ass and he goes, "Oh shit, you right," and decides to fuck off, letting me get to the next level. This victory doesn't last long, however, because on floor -2, for whatever reason, I was about that action first and asked questions later, which resulted in the whole area around me catching on fire. And among the chaos and confusion, the Ottoman comes back and finishes what he started.
Just chilling.
Give me your money.
Dying sends you to the overworld in roguelike fashion, which I'll touch on in a bit because there's a lot to talk about with it. So this is where my meat companion Talon jumps in and we play through the first few stages together because Golden Light has a functioning multiplayer, which is cool. I also lost my solo gameplay of the rest of the Gut Corridors after I died, so you're gonna have to tolerate us, sorry.
Oh.
I don't like the sound you make when you walk around.
Ooh, money. Oh my goodness!
What?
Oh my goodness!
Wait, you're taking on the
I'm
money.
gonna leave some for you though.
Yeah, that's what
I
I'm
left
saying.
some for you. I left some for you, bro. There's a lot.
Wait, can you still hear that, like, gramophone thing? Talking?
Yeah, it plays near the elevator.
Oh. Okay. Do my footsteps sound
Pick
like
up all
that
the
for
money.
you too? Dude, where? I don't see no money.
Yeah.
It's invisible money on my screen. Wait, there is a lot of it then. Oh. Let's try to not fight that guy.
Okay.
I thought you said you didn't have a
doesn't
weapon.
Want to fight me. He hit me.
Oh, he's strong.
Yeah, he half hit
I'm
me.
dead. I'm
Oh, fuck
dead. That's why I said don't fight him.
No, I didn't fight him. I thought he was fine.
Dude, he ran up on you. That's the only reason why I tried to fight him. I guess he's not a fan of Meat Bros.
I would be.
Yeah, I know you would be. Hey, come help me out, though. Be careful. He's staring at the wall right there. Be very quiet.
What the fuck?
What happened to you?
What? I just got sent back to the elevator.
Oh.
Okay.
Weird.
Ow. I'm one hit.
What?
Why does it keep doing that? Do you see that?
Yeah, I do. Now there's a sentient bookcase in here. I see you coming up and then you just like disappear.
Is that you?
No? Oh, right here? Yeah. Can you come pick me up now? What?
What?
Wait,
Why does it do that?
Yeah, I don't get it.
I'm gonna pick you up, bro.
Oh. Wait. You did pick me up. Oh, you have a gun?
Yeah, I found a gun.
Alright, put me in that dang. Oh,
Oh,
I'm alive. Did I scare you?
yeah. I was gonna die.
Alright.
Well, I have one key.
Wait, there's a meat hole right there. Stick your hand in there.
Oh,
What did it give you?
I'm one tap.
Oh no. Should I do it too, or do you think they're the same? It looks poisonous.
No, you do it.
He's purple.
You do it.
He gave me another memento.
Okay. Yeah, right.
Oh my god!
I knew it. I knew it.
What
I
was?
fucking knew it.
What? Did that kill
knew
you?
it. Yeah, it did. My brain's rolling around, I
Oh
think.
my god! It is. It's a meat brain. Oh, there's the key.
What key?
Okay.
Oh, there's another key.
Oh, easy as floor.
Ooh, memento.
Oh. What are the...
Cool.
Talon, what is that?
Don't let that thing touch. Actually, let it touch you.
No. I'm
It's
scared.
silly.
Is it gonna... Oh my god.
I found fat lips.
Talon, I'm scared of it.
It's a hand.
Ah! Oh, Talon, what is that?
Oh, he does a lot of damage. You just cut around him and get into the elevator. Holy fuck.
Oh my god!
Holy fuck. Holy fuck. I'm putting the keys in. I'm putting the keys in.
Get in there!
Go, bro.
After leaving that floor, we get to -3, which is the final floor in the gut corridors. As we'll soon find out, the final floor of each zone has a boss at the end of it that roams around the level, with Carrie being the gut corridors boss. Carrie vaguely resembles a sea star with 8 human arms as appendages, with a couple of sub-bodies that follow the main body, attack, and latch onto the player's face.
Let me in.
What is that?
It's a pussy. No, look at it.
Yeah, it does look like it's
I never noticed that.
it does look like it's doing something there, doesn't it?
There's like a clitoral node right there.
Stop, bro.
There's a node.
Oh.
These guys are chill. It's okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Why'd he beat my
But
ass?
if they-
Why'd he beat my ass last time?
No, that was a different one.
Oh,
Something's happening in there. Bro.
Whoa. Oh, get out! Get out!
Wait, I remember that guy. Don't get hit by that guy, bro. Nas, where'd you go?
There's
Nas,
a
where'd
red
you go?
evil TV right here.
Bro, where'd you go?
Talon, I'm lost and I'm very scared right now.
I don't know. Where
There's a
you
lot
went.
of red evil
Yeah.
TVs here. Oh, what's up?
Oh, I was about to shoot your ass, bro.
I'm gonna eat the snail head. They're coming after me.
I'm gonna throw a slimy leech. Love potion.
They're coming after me.
Okay, well, maybe get away from me then, bro.
No! Safety in numbers.
Paralysis! Shoot him!
Oh, he had the key.
Oh yeah, I forgot you can pick this up. Look. You can pick up, like, their body as a weapon.
Oh my god. Beating Carrie drops a large amount of gold and her main body as a weapon called Carrie's Arms, a melee weapon in high damage and durability. After we blast Carrie, I pick up the weapon and we wander around a bit for some unknown reason and finally make our way out the gut corridors. Alright, let's get out.
Yeah, the other pistol I found says, I will poison you if you pick me up. So I'm not going to pick that up.
And you believe that?
Oh, true. Let me go pick it up.
In single player, the boss floors hold a body part of She that you can obtain after unlocking the elevator. Doing so will send you back to the Eternal Field with all your weapons and mementos you collected on the run. After retrieving the first body part of your dearly beloved, you're met with a blinding white light, and before your eyes can make out what's in front of you, a light breeze touches your face, and suddenly you're at ease. You open your eyes and yet again you see a field of grass and flowers. It certainly isn't your typical flower field, but it's still peaceful nonetheless. You're now in the Eternal Field. The Eternal Field is the main hub within Golden Light and acts as a pseudo-safe space where you can cool off and take a break before descending into the gut again. It's slightly reminiscent of the opening area, the most noticeable difference being the unearthly colored sky. On your first trip back to the Eternal Field, you'll meet one of your few companions, a sentient bike named Snout. Snout offers a quick way to get around as well as providing you with somewhat comforting advice when it comes to descending the gut. He also can play music tapes that you find within the levels. There's many different vendors that can offer you different items and services that can help you in your runs. Sun is one of the entities that can aid you if you choose to exchange a bit of gold with him. He'll ask you for an amount of gold proportional to the total amount of gold you have in your pockets, and if you say yes, he'll give you a fragment of your past in the form of a memento. Around the map, you can also find an item called a golden key, which can unlock gates, which lead to new areas. These areas can have elevators that start you at a specific zone, so you don't have to start from the very beginning for each run. When I asked Mr. Pink, the lead developer, what aspect of the game he was most proud of, he said that he likes how these elevators allow access to different parts of the game, so if you're stuck on a zone or level, you can still see everything within the game. So, if you think the game's too hard, don't worry. The creator of the game said it's okay to simply skip entire parts of the game, so don't feel bad. The final aspect of the Eternal Field I'd like to talk about is another item found within it, golden meat. Golden meat is arguably the most important item you can find because it permanently increases your maximum HP. Most of them are found in different locations within the Eternal Field, but can also be found in the flashbacks you get sent to when descending to a new floor. Aside from all the useful things you can find within the Eternal Field, among the roses and graves is where you piece together She on this strange cluster of metal bars. After making another trip down, passing the corridors this time, the stench of oil invades your nose as you feel your feet slide ever so slightly on the greasy concrete floor. You can barely hear your own thoughts over the sounds of automated machinery aimlessly at work. The air is thick and the feeling of dread won't leave your body. You are now in the Meat Factory. The Meat Factory is a dank industrial factory biome with yellow neon lights lining the dirty and broken teal walls. Hooks, pipes, and many other random automated machines that can constantly be heard from anywhere on the map are found all over the area. The Meat Factory looks like it's a map straight out of Dead by Daylight, like you're just gonna be walking around and suddenly hear. You'll encounter a new monster type that serves much more of a threat than the mimics, which are still present on these levels, and every level going forward. Face Eaters are a small dark monster that are barely noticeable when you're wandering around, that will jump and latch onto your face when attacking. They don't do very much damage, but do force you to look at their ugly ass Jeff the Killer faces for a few seconds, which can cause you to step onto, or into, something more dangerous. There's also a new entity unique to the Meat Factory called Condemned, who who remain kneeling down and won't attack the player unless you attack them first, or steal an item out of their hands. Normally these guys won't cause you any trouble unless you throw an item that starts to injure them, but for just about my entire solo playthrough I had this stupid memento, nose with teeth, that would automatically melee attack enemies I walked by. This made me almost always draw aggro on these guys, so just saying it now, never take this memento. Obscuring your screen and the inconvenience of interactions like this aren't outweighed by its terrible fucking damage. This biome is still relatively easy, but the sudden addition to new monsters, increase of trap spawns, and confusing maze-like map layout could catch you by surprise. The boss of the meat factory is named Meal, and spawns on floor -6. Meal, in my opinion, is one of the more silly bosses, taking the form of a large patch of wall when you first encounter him. He's essentially a mimic boss, but ironically is the worst at being subtle about it. I mean, just look at it. Aside from the fact that he just stands in the middle of walkways, it doesn't even have the neon yellow lights that all the other walls have. F-tier mimic, dude. Come on. Meal also loudly plays distorted audio that can be heard from almost anywhere on the map, that will loop and restart if you make any noise or Meal takes any kind of damage. Fun fact, the audio that it comes from is a snippet of a news broadcast that originates from the Night of the Living Dead. So that's neat.
Being monitored closely by scientists at all the radiation detection stations. At this hour, they report the level of the mysterious radiation continues to increase steadily. So long as this situation remains, government spokesmen warn that dead bodies will continue to be transformed into the flesh-eating ghouls. Steadily. So long as this situation remains, government spokesman warn that dead bodies will continue to be transformed into the flesh-eating ghouls.
In Meal's attack mode, he turns into a tall piece of farming equipment that will just try to mow you down by standing directly on top of you. This is Meal's only method of damaging you, but it can get kinda dicey given how fast he can move. Would not recommend trying to beat him with a melee weapon. Shooting him in the eyes that are between the blades at the base of Meal's body seems to be his weak point. An eyeball sack of some kind. At some point in the Lost Gut corridors footage, I received a memento that gives you a pet mimic that will fight monsters you attack, or ones that attack you. There's a few different mementos that give you pets. Your pets can be killed, but always respawn at the start of the next floor, and monsters they kill don't negatively affect your credit score. That's right, the evil-ass Ottoman has turned a new leaf and fights for the side of righteousness. Stepping into the next area, the whole room seems to rattle, bend, and crack. Just about every inch of steel seems to be completely covered in rust. You're now in the cages. The cages is an area spanning from level -7 to -9 that, as you can probably imagine, is completely lined with cages. And if that doesn't sound just dandy, there's pink pulsating flesh behind all of the walls. Because, you know, gotta keep up with the fleshy meat theme. There can be medical equipment found around the area such as hospital beds, surgical tools, and wheelchairs. The equipment found coupled with the setting of cages would imply it to be an older mental hospital. Cages could possibly be an interesting insight as to when the game takes place. Within the world, there's a dealer referred to as Laugh and Eye, who can sell you an item simply called a lobotomizer, that when used will remove one of your mementos, ultimately making you forget that memory presented in the photo. Which, if I'm not mistaken, again, as a few people educated me in my Vita Carnis video, memory is stored in the hippocampus, not the prefrontal cortex, which was the target area of lobotomies. But I mean, that's close enough, right? I mean, you're using it on yourself. It makes sense that you're scrambling something in there. The enemies in this biome include eye takers, gut jumpers, and stranger in a bag, which has to be my least favorite enemy in the entire game. I hate these guys even more than the fucking window guys. Stranger in a bag, true to its name, looks like a rolled up sleeping bag inching around that, when approached, will reveal its face while screaming at you. What makes this enemy so annoying is that it's the only meat monster in the game to multiply itself when killed. It'll do this a few times and it can get quickly overwhelming as well as annoying when they're all just screaming like,
Oh my god, it's beating me.
I died. Eye takers are the other more notable meat creatures that begin to appear in cages, and are probably one of the most dangerous monsters besides the bosses. Eye takers have a large health pool and hit very hard given that they always have a meat spear. That, coupled with the fact that they're actually pretty fast, is what makes them so dangerous. Interestingly enough, while interacting with one of the she statues found within the gut, as I mentioned previously, she can ask you to give you one of her eyes, which I didn't even realize she had asked me for, because for the most time she only ever asked for a kiss. Giving the statue a kiss spawns regeneration around her with no observable drawbacks, so I would always just mash through the dialogue. Just a little lesson. Read the statue's dialogue if you don't want your girlfriend to take one of your eyes. There is a benefit to doing this, however, because once you do give she one of your eyes, the eye takers will not only be friendly towards you, but can now be spoken to like all of the other neutral creatures. So that's cool, I guess. Not really. Not really worth just avoiding them if you ask me. I prefer to see the game I'm playing, but again, that's just me. The boss of cages is named Needles, a cluster of spikes that float around and stab down from the ceiling. Her primary attack method is to approach you and pierce your flesh, cycling through each needle, but occasionally will stab 3 times, like, kind of fast. I don't know, it's a bunch of needles, like what is it gonna, like what else would it do? When defeating Needles, she'll drop her boss weapon called Needles Crutch, which is a high damage long range rifle that deals an absurd amount of damage to a single target. The drawback to this weapon is that the spears it shoots travel at projectile speed, as opposed to all the other firearms that are found, which are hit scan, forcing you to take travel time into account when using it. Additionally, it has a very low ammo count with only 4 ammo in the barrel, which sucks because there's no floor pickups for more. 4 shots and you're done. In my run, however, I did find a memento called Gold Shooter, which allows you to continue firing your held weapon even when you're completely out of ammo for it in exchange for gold. I can't remember off the top of my head how it worked for the normal range weapons, but for Needles Crutch it costed 30 gold per shot, which isn't that bad once you get late game and you're kind of just sitting on a lot of unspent gold. In my experience, this is one of the better combinations you can get within the game. As you step foot into the next area, broken glass and discarded paper crunches underneath your feet. There's a vile stench that invades your nose. You look around and notice the place is littered with random trash piles and mystery gunk all over the concrete floor. You are now in the Backstreets. Sliding away from all the stinky ass meat biomes, we enter a regularly stinky ass biome, the Backstreets. This area is the most claustrophobic of them all, being composed entirely of tight alleyways with the floors being covered in trash and debris. Ironically enough though, this is the only area that isn't in an enclosed space. Looking up you can see buildings that stretch far past your view, disappearing into a deep abyss. The color palette of the Backstreets is composed almost entirely of blue, black, and gray, similar to the Meat Factory, which is another contrasting aspect to the more fleshy levels. The Backstreets, in my opinion, added some of the most annoying hazards and enemies in the game, and unfortunately they're probably the most memorable thing about the whole area. Bum Meat is a trap disguised as a manhole that, when approached, will activate 4 blades that slice around the area. Apparently the way to avoid them is to step onto the middle, and while it's on cooldown, dash past it. But even with knowing that knowledge, in some cases it seemed impossible for me to avoid it.
I'm gonna die when I come out.
Well, I don't know how you avoid it right in front of the fucking door.
Oh
yeah, and it also inflicts poison when it hits you, because why not? The other annoying piece of shit found in UK Simulator is Mr. Window. These creatures hang out in windows found on the sides of buildings and only come out when you walk on their territory. Mr. Window will just headbutt you, inflicting you with love for some reason, which makes you unable to perform attack actions. That sucks a load of hot ass, because when they do it initially, you're unable to get rid of them. Then they just keep hitting you, refreshing the status timer. Not to mention they're kind of fast, so you can't even really run away that easily. I'm pretty sure these are the only enemies that inflict love, and for good reason. It doesn't do anything except mildly inconvenience you, because it's not like they do any damage, it's just you can't do anything. Gut Divers is the boss of the Backstreets. He appears on floor -12, and in case you miss the floor number flash on your face, you can tell when you're in his alleyway because there will be an evil red glow all over the map now. As the name and appearance suggests, his main method of attack is to dive in and out of the ground and wiggle all over you. I mean, shit looks like the worm scene from A Nightmare on Elm Street 3. He does an insane amount of damage and moves faster than you, so that's always fun. Oh, that's not so bad. He also farts out gold hunger when he gets down half health, stealing your bag. And then on death, as a final fuck you, he puts fire everywhere. Beating gut divers drops the red phallus, and a great phallus it is. And like how the gut diver's head looks like Freddy's head, the red phallus looks just like Freddy's. I'm probably gonna have to censor this weapon. It's not even subtle. Red phallus is just a flamethrower, and true to video game fashion, it's terrible and probably one of the worst boss weapons. I head over to the elevator and oh my god, it said the thing. It said the thing, guys, it said the thing. The Backstreets was probably the easiest zone for me personally, making it the most forgettable. At this point in my exploration of the depths, I was getting pretty used to how things work down here, so I just cruised through these floors without any difficulty. As the elevator descends, the air around you begins to get colder, and by the time the bell rings and the doors slide open, you're already shivering. Snow crunches underneath your feet with every step you take, and the air is so frigid, it feels as though it pierces into your throat as you inhale. You're now in the Meatwoods. Meatwoods is the 5th location within the gut, starting on floor -13. There's 2 different components to the Meatwoods. The first being a cozy log cabin, furnished with mounted deer heads and tables. The cabin is illuminated by fireplaces and torches scarcely found around the area. The second part of the Meatwoods is an outdoor snowy patch of land with dead trees, logs, and benches scattered around. Along with the double zone thing going on, there's also a new feature exclusive to Meatwoods. Map wide bone shiver, baby. Let's go. So basically you want to constantly be running around, stand relatively close to fire, or be completely engulfed in fire, you know, whichever you prefer, so the bone shiver doesn't proc onto you. The most notable enemy introduction is the deer. I don't even think there's any better way for you to understand what this creature is other than to show you, so there's also a new trap called the treater, which is just a tree that kind of grips you as you walk by it and makes a weird sound. I don't know. I'm gonna get to the chase. This is my favorite zone, and it's solely because of the boss Maneater. And I say this primarily because once I was this far into the game, I was pretty desensitized to all the sounds and ambiance the game uses to scare you, but this creature. Maneater is a deer with a deformed human face, seemingly no actual eyeballs, and a large smile that stretches the entire width of its head. He moves around in an unnatural motion that looks more like low effort dancing than it does walking or running. It's one of the more uniquely silly designed bosses, and has a silly ass theme song that follows him around to accompany it.
Maneater's theme sounds like
Something sinister.
yeah. It's like
He can hear just about anything you do from a large radius on the map, which makes him seek you out, and is exactly what happened with my first encounter. He ran directly at me, posted up, and ate my whole ass double-barrel Tommy gun drum to the face as a power move, and then dipped out the function. Such a majestic yet peculiar creature he is. After a couple seconds, he runs up on me again, changing his mind apparently, deciding he's actually not okay with me blasting him in the face, and then detaches his head Parasite Maximum style and just flails it around, doing large amounts of damage to everything within the immediate area. Bro smacks me on the ass twice, chunking my HP bar before I manage to give him the slip. I just try to let him be and clear out this bone shiver with this item by throwing it, and then chaos ensues.
oh my god!
I managed to find enough keys without having to beat Maneater, so I just decide to head out without finishing the job because honestly I was kind of rattled up by all the shit that was going on, so yeah. I put those keys in, grab that body, and get out. If you do beat him, which I did on my way to the next area, you get rewarded with the Men Smasher, a very good high damage, high durability melee weapon with a pretty neat look to it. And if you're wondering, it wasn't any less terrifying in multiplayer.
Is that what I think it is? It sure is.
Leaving the frosty hell, the elevator begins to warm again as you continue your descent. Upon reaching the next floor, one of the first things you take note of is how much this new area contrasts all of the previous ones. You describe it almost as elegant in nature. You're now in the Reds. The Reds is the 6th layer in the gut onion and seems to be an art gallery or museum, with big meat curtains forming a maze-like layout. Along with the mini paintings and sculptures, here you can find ottomans and leather couches all over these floors. The Red stands out from the rest of the gut due to how clean this area is. I mean, well, as clean as a place made out of flesh can be, right? When you arrive here, the gut even tells you not to stain the floor, so you know they're keeping this place tidy. They got some fucking... They got some meat maids. Or meat custodians. I don't know. I'm not too sure if this is intended, but on the first floor of the Reds I loaded into, a majority of the map was the previous area cages. I wasn't able to find any information stating that the gimmick of the Reds is that it spawns previously loaded areas, so I'm not too sure what happened here, but throughout my entire run after I lost my eye from that piece of paper, I followed my own advice and didn't pick them up anymore, but I got one from jamming my hand in one of those assholes on the wall and decided to give it a chance. Then it did this, and suddenly I will never trust a piece of paper I get from sticking my hand in a flesh hole attached to a wall ever again. Full transparency, it's been a while since I recorded this gameplay footage, but at this point it looks like I was less scared and just more tired of the bullshit cause I just sit here staring at this note for so long. I was having a hard time finding the last key on this floor, and not to my surprise, it was in a random obscure corner in the map, and when I picked it up, of course, I almost actually died for the second time during this run, which probably would have made me cry in all honesty. Like, I'm so stacked up on mementos at this point. Me surviving that carnage just goes to show. Starting off floor -18 with the most normal golden light start to a level, the gut gives me some lore on the castle. The boss of the Reds, and for no particular reason, says one must schmeat before he meet. Don't expect that line to be part of the analysis. The castle is the boss of the Reds and looks to be a tall dark centaur with a humanoid torso, crown made of arms, or like a head made of arms, I can't really tell, and a weird pulsating bundle of flesh on the lower half of the body. The castle wields a sword made up of a bundle of human arms called the Crowhand Sword, and attacks by lunging directly at you and bringing the massive sword down in a heavy slash. Fighting the castle, I could just tell that it's a boss that gets shit on by ranged weapons, but I wasn't able to test that theory out because, you know, in the end, it didn't really matter because me and Castle just ended up going band for band, and I came up on top with Men Smashers, so thanks to my biggest hater. Right before I picked up the final key and left the gut for the last time, the mole decides to give me a parting gift and sent me to where I assume Castle spawns given how open it is. Strangely enough, she's here, and I mean she, not the distorted statue version. She's laying in a chair with a strange growth coming out of her, but before I could speak to her or frankly even process what I was looking at, the stupid teeth nose memento I have fucking kills her. So thanks for that. I really wanted you to do that. I make my way back to the elevator, and as much as I love Man Bonker, Crowhand came from a stronger boss, so surely that means it's better, so I have to take that. I pick up all the gold in the area and put the final key in, getting the last body part of she, which is her heart. If you're crazy enough to continue venturing down into the gut at this point, you'd be pleased to know that you only have one final descent. Granted, you make it out of this area alive, but I mean, you've already endured so much. It'd be crazy to turn back at this point regardless. Though, taking a step into the darkness, it's easy to see there's something different with this floor. And I don't simply mean the way the gut has constantly been changing the way it presents itself to you. In fact, it's quite the opposite. The walls, the floors, everything now only appears to be flesh and body parts. You're told very early on that everything in the gut is made out of meat, which checks out given you can consume objects normally made out of metal and be completely fine. But here it's like the gut doesn't even bother trying to keep the facade up anymore. There's no fancy furniture, wall decorations, flooring. It's all just flesh. You're now in the insides. The inside seems to likely be the gut in its purest form. This is backed up again by the lack of any previously seen furnishing or man-made objects within the floor, as well as the narrow, pulsating hallways mimicking a stomach or intestine. Feelings of claustrophobia are at an all-time high, with there basically being zero open areas on these levels, and the hallways feeling more like an underground tunnel than anything structurally sound. There's only one new monster introduced to the insides, the fish. Fish looks to be a hybrid combination of an anglerfish and some type of bug, greatly sharing a resemblance to the aquatic zombie animals in Junji Ito's Gyo. When the fish attacks, it grows in size and flails its head around, desperately trying to bite at you, but its size only serves to make it an easier target. The gut, while you traverse the insides, has a dramatically different tone than it has throughout the grim adventure. When previously, it primarily just taunts and tries to influence you to make bad decisions, now it speaks to you in a more personal and emotional level. It seems almost sorrowful that you're actually so close to completing your goal and leaving, saying things like, "My heart only beats when you are here. I really have a crush on you. You're like my favorite series. And I wonder what my last words to you will be." After picking up the last key and using them to open the locks for the final time, the gut knows that its time with you has ended. Just ignore me frantically jamming the keys in there. With each lock, the gut says its last words to us. The further you go, the less time I have. Exhaling is scary. Will I be able to take the next breath? Not many have gone that far. You're special to me. Come back sometime. I beg you. If there's still the electricity, know that I'm waiting for you. Before finally saying goodbye. When arriving to floor -21, there's a noticeable shift in tone. The area being completely dark aside from a spotlight where Snout, your one and only companion, is completely rusted and dismantled, with She's heart not too far away. The gut's voice is now entirely absent as well. This is where the final boss of the gut, simply referred to as Gutworm, makes its presence known by slithering its way out of the darkness to attack you. The gut is a massive black caterpillar-like monstrosity with jet black teeth and a red human face that seems to stretch over its body as if it's wearing a mask. It begins narrowing down on your location as soon as you arrive at -21 and consumes anything that stands in the way of its pursuit. Heralded as the final enemy in your way, expect this fight to be the most climactic and most intense battle thus far, and never mind. Yeah, I just started blasting it and it went down in like 10 seconds. Strangely enough though, the Gutworm didn't drop any keys, meaning I had to go on a slightly less than exciting key hunt as my last task within the gut. I tried to pay my way to the ending by exchanging gold for a key from a pile of meat, and the mole thought it was cheating apparently and decided to hand deliver me to one of the facehuggers. After finding the last key and struggling to find the way out, I decided to actually utilize the map for the first time and locate the final door. Not an elevator, a door. Passing through the red door, you're met with a horrifying scene, but not in the way you'd expect based on what you've been forced to endure. She and a person you have never met are together in bed, their bodies contorted and twisting together. Both she and the man's head twist around to stare directly at you, no matter where you go within the room. She is no longer the person you've been fighting to save this whole time. The entity before you as we perceive them is now they. Interacting with they will only give you one line of dialogue, together forever, yet always apart. The only thing left to do is to approach the typewriter that has been producing the only sound accompanying accompanying their sounds of lust. Interacting with the typewriter gives us the first and only dialogue from our character, a note that reads, "I cannot understand. Was I too late? Was I not trying hard enough to get her back? One thing is clear. I've paid enough for whatever I've done, but all this suffering has only led to more suffering. At the end of a journey, a man shall change, they say. I feel like I'm the same. No knowledge of what to do, no knowledge of what to want, no bloody wrath, no humble forgiveness. I'm neither here nor there." After writing their final thoughts on the journey that led them to this outcome, the door opens, allowing you to exit the room before being consumed by a golden light and finishing the story. The story of Golden Light seems to be told almost entirely in the background, of course with an exception of the opening and ending scene, as well as the flashback scenes we see in between the levels. It's not a big revelation to say that the events as the player perceives them are not how they actually appear, seeing them through our character's unreliable perception of reality. This ultimately begs the question of, what does any of this mean? First, let's address the most obvious mystery, the gut. Though let me preface by saying, unlike series I've done in the past, there really isn't a definitive story being told here. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that the desire to tell a story was overshadowed by the desire to create a uniquely chaotic gameplay experience. I only say this because while we are given tidbits of story, they're only implemented as afterthoughts, such as loading screens or spoon-fed dialogue. Not to mention, it kind of aligns with the developer's other titles. The purpose of me sharing this viewpoint on the game is because there are multiple interpretations that can be considered correct, depending on how you choose to perceive the events unfolding within the game, as well as what certain things represent. This statement is corroborated by the lead developer, Mr. Pink, after I tried to cheat and straight up ask him to describe what the gut is supposed to represent. At first he refused to tell me, and then proceeded to be a trickster about it. Then he added that it's all tied up for multiple things, and that there are tits and bits that support different interpretations. With that being said, I believe that the events we play through within Golden Light are our character's written account or cooked up story retelling of his experience, desperately trying to save an already doomed relationship. The most blatant evidence that supports this claim is at the end of the game we're told to write the ending at the end of the neutral ending as well as the genocide ending, the two where you still remain yourself at the end. We know that he's a writer due to all the books and papers cluttering not only the floors around the gut, but as well as in the flashbacks we see it again, along with a typewriter on the desk. Along with that, sometime around the beginning of the game, the gut tells us that the failed writer tried to switch his profession, likely referring to our character starting out as a music producer and switching over to being a writer when that doesn't work out too well for him. We actually see this in the mixtapes that you can find around within the gut that can be played when you're riding on snow. But the most telling piece of information as to what Golden Light truly represents, in my opinion, is during the run, at some point, the gut offers to tell you a story of their god, which goes as follows. Our god was a rather strange fellow. He sat in his room all the time, just like you. And one day our god came up with the idea of touching himself. He really liked it. Our god always loved to come up with something new. Ideas, stories, anything as long as it's something interesting. His creative lane flared up more and more with each new thought. At first it looked like an innocent prank, but then it turned into an uncontrollable fixation. Now it was the only thing he's been doing. Finally, one day he touched himself, and his creative fire suddenly died out forever. And the last spark of his dying talent turned into a golden light that was a squeeze of all his ideas. It would be easy to say that the gut is referring to our character at this point. The description that the gut gives perfectly matches up. He's described as a creative, loving to come up with new ideas and stories, an ever-growing talent with each passing thought, very similar to artists and writers, which we know he is one of. Along with that, it's said that he sits in his room all day, which is something that we see evidence of within most of the flashback scenes. There's pages, books, and empty beer bottles cluttered within our room. She even begs us to go out with her, commenting on how much time we spent here. But I believe that there's a more meta meaning to that story that reveals the truth as to what Golden Light is overall. The story seems to be meant to be taken in a literal sense, as if there's a separate entity who created all of this. The gut, the monsters, and even the character we play as. With no other higher power entity being mentioned other than the gut, it's safe to say that this god is referring to the creator of Golden Light himself, Mr. Pink. Now it sounds like I just pulled that out of my ass, but when you're unlocking the elevator to the insides, the gut seems to break character and begin to plead with you not to continue forward. There will always be others you spend more time with. You will lose interest in me when you get to the end. And you won't even tell anyone how much fun we had together. No one will understand anyway. Please don't go further. And it happens again before you enter the final level of the game, with it saying the previously mentioned lines. Not many have gone that far. You're special to me. Come back sometime, I beg you. A far cry from the constant mockery and bullshit the gut has been putting us through throughout the game. This is because it's self-conscious of what it is. At the beginning, she tells us that we have to find her in the bed of roses, but nearing the end of the game, the gut seems like it doesn't even remember what the narrative of the game itself is. It even warns us that there isn't a place like that, and it certainly wasn't lying given the main ending. So we have a semi-omniscient presence aware of its existence of being a game and begging us to stop completing the game, essentially because it knows what happens when the game turns off. Its consciousness ceases to exist. This ties back into the story of the god the gut refers to, because it is aware of Mr. Pink's existence. It makes sense in a literal way since he is the one who created the game along with all the creatures inside it. Along with that, Mr. Pink told me that the story behind Golden Light was a personal story mixed with some other stuff that cultivated through the years. Now it checks out as to why the protagonist would be similar to the god, because they're essentially the same being, living through parallel experiences. Mr. Pink, game developer who likely spends a lot of time at his computer, a writer who definitely spends a lot of time at his typewriter, both entities creating many new ideas and interesting stories. With the analysis part over, it's time I finally break down the story as I understand it. It's clear the character we play through the game is a creative, having a general interest in art, initially trying to express his own artistic nature through writing and literature. This is evident through the abundance of letters found throughout the floors and the typewriter along with the stacks of books found in their room. And when that doesn't work out, they attempt to create music. As far as the attempt at the music career, as mentioned previously, there's mixtapes that can be found within the Eternal Field that likely were created by our character. All that coupled with the fact that the gut explicitly tells us very early on that the former writer tried to take up music, keeping in mind that the gut is merely the character's own thoughts, memories, and perception of reality. This career shift into music doesn't find any more success than the former, which led him into a deep depression and desire to escape reality when faced with so much failure. This not only has a huge impact on himself, but naturally on his girlfriend as well, who we'll continue to refer to as she. She is the only person we're shown close to our character, and without any other true companions besides our literal bicycle within the events of the game, it's safe to say he's a bit of a loner. Even despite being his only living companion, she's still pushed away, becoming somewhat of a shut-in at this point, but still having enough desire left in him to go on a couple of dates with she, as seen in a couple of the flashbacks. She sees him presumably for the first time in a while and comments on his appearance and unkept facial hair, stating that she'll bring him a razor, then shifting the focus to his room, stating that he's weird and asking why he made a tower out of books. Despite the less than ideal start to the date, things seem to go over well. She even teases him a bit, asking how he likes the fresh air and commenting that they're lost and he's such a romantic. This shows that, at this point in time, he's still able to go out and have nice dates with her, even going well enough for them to be able to get lost into the night figuratively and literally, despite his deteriorating mental health. But this joy is only a temporary distraction, for once he goes home and the doors are shut, there's once again nothing left for him. It's safe to say that from this point on, things continue to get worse for him, as the alcoholism continues with an introduction to a minor amount of substance abuse. I'm not entirely sure where the multiplayer story stands within the main story, but within the room we can see a couple of perks and some needles on the table. But even if we don't see it within our characters' flashbacks, I mean, come on, just think about what you've been seeing this entire time. Not to mention what I previously went over with the story of the god that the gut tells us. It's likely he started taking some type of stimulants. This causes an artificial boost in work ethic and inspiration for his writing, and he becomes fixated and even obsesses over his work, further shutting himself off to the outside world. This way of living continues for a while and she begins to show genuine concern, explicitly saying, "I'm scared for you," mentioning that he needs a haircut, some new clothes, and asking how long he's just gonna sit in his room. She tries her best to support him, even setting aside her own happiness to be supportive, but at this point it's starting to get to her as well. She asks why he doesn't want to go out anymore and even tells him that she misses her friends, which is a very fair thing to bring up. She holds the door open and extends her arm out for him to join her. This moment represents the choice given to him to stay with her or to be without her. And he chooses the latter, remaining in his room and irreversibly sealing the fate of his relationship. Following this, our man discovers she is talking to another man outside his door. You might be thinking to yourself how dumb she must be to talk to another man right outside her boyfriend's door, but remember what he sees isn't an accurate representation of the events occurring, so this could just show that somehow he discovered her talking to another man. This causes some tension in their relationship, but doesn't lead to anything drastic like a breakup. However, it's very clear that they're not doing so well, as in the next flashback we can see she lying on the bed hiding away from him. For the first time, she responds coldly to him, stating that she's not his mom, and tells him him to do whatever he likes, likely responding to him asking her what she wants him to do to make her feel better or improve their relationship. In this flashback, the door is blocked off by a tower of books, likely representing how his obsession with writing has now trapped him in this undesirable position with the only person he can say cared about him. The flames, pretty self-explanatory, and unfortunately, this is where we come to the end of the story, where there is no happy ending for our character. We play through his experience of trying to save his doomed relationship, but it's already too late. Walking in on Chi having an intense Twister game with another man, trying to talk to they, as they're referred to within the game. He's only given one line of dialogue, always together, yet forever apart. The very same line she had at the very start of the game, wondering what this very concept would be like to experience. This line represents how she will always be with him, just not physically, but emotionally. The scene of the woman he loved with another man will permanently be burned into his mind, and that's not something he's just gonna unsee. He'll take these memories of her, good and bad, with him, but will never truly be with her again. This idea is vaguely echoed within the alternate endings. In one of them, he's reincarnated as She's dog, and the other as her child. Yeah, I know, it's pretty weird, but let's not pretend that it's the weirdest thing I've said in this video. In these forms, he can't be with her romantically. Now he's just something she'll only love as a child or an animal, not a romantic partner. They'll always be together, yet forever apart. With this revelation, he takes the only action he thinks can free him of She for good. In the final flashback, he's sat down in a chair with a strange man in front of him. Based on his clothing and the obvious cutting device in his hands, he must be some type of surgeon. He's telling our character, this isn't the cleanest way, but still, and I know what I'm doing, don't worry. Choosing to remove the painful image of She with the other man from his memory, concluding the story. Hello again. First off, I just want to reiterate that the conclusions and story I drew came from how I interpreted what was presented. So if you came up with something else or wanted to add something you noticed, just let me know in the comments. I do like to read what you guys have to say about the content I cover. Golden Light is a very fun game with lots of replayability. I think a lot of the negative reviews are pretty misleading, saying that it's kind of hard and something you really have to get into to enjoy, but I disagree. I played it on normal difficulty. I think there's one difficulty above this, above normal, I mean. And I only died once on my solo playthroughs, so I don't know. Maybe I'm just too cracked. I think that the mementos are slightly overtuned, so yeah, if you only play it for like 10 minutes, it seems hard. But in both of my full playthroughs I played through it regularly, and then I did a pacifist run to get the baby reincarnation ending. I only died once at the very start of the game, both times, but once I started stacking mementos, I never died again. One thing specifically I'd like to applaud for the game is the monster designs, especially the bosses. I don't think I've seen many things that resemble Castle, Maneater, or Meal, like, ever in a game. I don't know. Maybe I don't play enough games, but I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it yet. My main negative about the game is that I wish that the level layouts had a little more variability. Like, it all just seems too similar, like a big maze. I think that's fine for something like the Backstreets, you know, it's like alleyways. But for something like the Meatwoods, I think it should go like the outside parts are like open, even more so than it already was. And then, like, you know, have the cabin part compressed. It doesn't have to be slender, the 8 pages in the outside parts, but, you know, just make it feel a little more unique. Maybe an upstairs to the cabin bits as well. That would add a decent amount of flavor to it. Another negative I have about the game is, and this isn't even like, this is like a common thing within like these smaller horror games, but you see it in Five Nights at Freddy's especially, is like the biggest example I have of this, is that the game just stops being scary at a certain point. And for Golden Light, it's as soon as you realize like a lot of the sound cues are from nothing. Like they're just sounds put in to keep it suspenseful. As far as I could tell, only a handful of monsters actually make sounds when not attacking you, and you'll quickly learn what sounds came from a monster and what is just random shit that is just sound meant to keep you rattled. I do, however, think the game slightly gets a pass once you do get to this point, simply because it's supposed to be a comedy game as well. Not really taking itself too seriously, and overall leaning into the absurdity of what it is. But that's about all I have for Golden Light. I had a great time playing this game and putting this video together. I know covering a game was a little different than what I normally do, and by normally I mean in the past 3 videos I've done, but I just want to have some variety in what I cover. I like horror in general, not just analog horror, so I want to also do games and even maybe some movies as well. So I hope you still like this content and future things that I cover that isn't just analog horror. If you have any suggestions for what you want to see me cover as well, you're always free to do so. Again, I read all of my comments, so I chance if your thing is cool, I'll cover it at some point. But that's about all I have for you guys. If you're a returning viewer from my other videos, I apologize for leaving you guys without any videos for like 6 months at times. And if you're new here, go ahead and subscribe, because you probably won't know when I upload next if you don't, and you're gonna want to be here for my next upload. It's gonna be pretty cool. I can't say right now if it's gonna be cooler or less cool than this video or any of my previous videos, but you won't know that, because you wouldn't be there for when it comes out, because you're not subscribed. So I think you should do that. But again, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a good day.